Okay, so I guess the first question is like, how did you get into taking psychedelics? Because I know like that's what your whole channel's based around.
Um, I got into them. I wish I had a cool story about, being on a spiritual path or some bullshit like that, but no, I liked getting fucked up in high school, and I had never tried them, but I just figured that would be like a natural progression of things. Like I knew they weren't hard drugs, and they seemed like something people had fun on, and I was getting into marijuana, so I was like, man, if I enjoy being high on this, then love mushrooms or acid or whatever.
I see. I can like understand the progression because marijuana is a natural gateway drug to something like shrooms or something, right? Or like LSD. It's like, what's the first one you actually took?
It was salvia.
So, oh god, how was that?
Terrifying. It was a huge mistake. It's way stronger than mushrooms or acid. Way stronger, and it comes on way quicker. And having never established any kind of relationship with psychedelics is probably the worst move I could have made. And and it was legal at the time in Michigan. Like we just bought it from a head shop, so I didn't think it would be that crazy. I thought like this is probably pretty safe if you could just buy it at the fucking store, you know?
That's crazy. Well, so they were selling this legally.
Yeah, I think it's still legal in some states. I could be wrong about
What
that.
year was this?
2006 or 7.
That's not even that far back. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I figured it was real safe, and there was like 4 or 5 of us in the room wanting to do it, and we packed the bong that we were going to use completely full. And the girl we were with, who had never tried it before and didn't know what the hell she was talking about, was like, "You need to hit the whole thing and clear it." And I did that, and the second I exhaled, um, they had the TV on, which I guess is a big no-no, but we had it on.
Yeah, because I think I saw the video about it. Wasn't it something to do like you saw faces and they were speaking to you through the TV?
Yeah, it was. I mean, specifically, it was America's Next Top Model. So it was like these these long, beautiful, lanky, like angels, and they just told me that like the second I exhaled, they were like, "All right, everything you know is wrong. This place is not real, and we're gonna take you to the real place." And I thought they had dragged me into my friend's closet to take me away from this life and show me this other world. And I completely panicked, and I kind of kicked out of his computer chair and crawled into the closet.
Oh god.
Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea this was happening. I thought I was completely gone. And so yeah, I had these models drag me into the closet and tell me that they were taking me away. And this probably lasted for like 2 minutes. And when I realized I was coming back, I came to on the floor, and all my friends were laughing harder than I've ever seen them laugh in my entire life.
That must be terrifying though, because like you just had a terrible experience and suddenly your friends are just laughing at you. How did that feel like?
It was the worst. I couldn't understand why nobody was helping me. They thought it was so funny, and I'm like, no, like, why don't they understand? I'm getting torn away from existence. Like this is heavy shit, and they're all just laughing. And
So you were the first one to take it in that like group.
oh yeah, they took it like after they saw what I experienced. They took much less, much smaller doses than I did.
I could understand why. Like, was it more of like a mental, I guess, battleground where like you saw these angels or what you want to describe them as angels? I'm guessing, or was it a physical thing? You actually saw these angels kind of like come into reality from the TV and drag you into the closet, or how would you describe it to someone that's sober?
No, like it wasn't like a visual thing. It was like I guess kind of having a dream where it just I didn't know if my eyes were open or closed or if I was sitting on the chair or the ground. The room ceased to exist. It was just my whole field of view was black and these angels were coming in from the sides. It wasn't like it was happening in the room. It was happening somewhere completely different.
Oh, that's the crazy thing because I can never understand stuff like this because I've never experienced it. How do you put it into terms when you sobered up? I guess.
Um, a big mistake. Like I'm surprised that experience didn't put me off of psychedelics forever. Like that was the absolute worst way I could have done it.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
that's why I imagine that's the thing, especially for a first experience with psychedelics. Something so
yeah.
crazy and profound that that scared you. You said it terrified you. Yet you
Yeah.
still managed
And
to
instead of
do it
learning to
again.
swim, I just kind of jumped off of a speedboat
Mm.
and had to learn from there, you know?
So that was your first ever experience. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Salvia. All right. Would you say that was like your worst ever experience with psychedelics, or is there anything that was like more traumatizing than that?
No, that was the scariest because it was the first one, so there was a complete lack of preparation.
Yeah.
Complete. I didn't do any research. I didn't look it up. I didn't read trip reports. I didn't see how other people reacted or what to expect. I had no idea.
A lot of people first try with psychedelics. They don't think about the surroundings, the people they're with, how they're feeling, and then when they do take this psychedelic or any drug, it doesn't even have to be psychedelic. Any drug, it will most likely end up bad because the stuff that's around them. And for your first time having such a bad experience, well, I'm not sure if you would describe it bad now.
No, not bad. Just scary.
Scary, yeah.
Not bad. And like it would be so different today.
Do you believe you can have like bad experiences then? Like, do you believe in that, or do you just think that the psychedelics are trying to tell you something within yourself, if that makes sense? I'm not sure if I'm describing it properly, but
Oh
like,
yeah, no, definitely the latter.
mm,
Everything, every bad experience, as some people call it, was just something to learn from. It was something I did wrong. And as long as you understand that, you can get better the next time, like with anything.
mm. So have you taken any psychedelics recently?
Did a lot of mushrooms over the summer, but no, not really.
How was the
Oh, that was a
shrooms for you?
blast. I had taken shrooms lots of times before, but never in like high doses.
Mm,
So that's kind of what this was about. It was kind of pushing myself with mushrooms and seeing what they're all about. But I wasn't that experienced on strong doses. But it was fun. It was mostly hanging out with friends. It wasn't like a solo introspective trick, which I really like to have.
yeah, because I saw your video on. I remember ages ago you did a video where you were out in the forest or something or in the park, and you were just taking shrooms or just tripping by yourself, right? And that to me is the craziest thing. Is like for a person that hasn't been experienced with any of this, just imagining myself doing that is just crazy. And the fact that you're so comfortable with yourself and shrooms and there's any psychedelic that you take, that you could trust in yourself that when you go outside, you won't go nuts. You just handle it gradually as you trip.
Yeah, it took a lot of practice, but I trust myself. And I don't know, I feel so at peace outside on psychedelics, especially mushrooms. I like walking through the woods. I feel like I'm back in a time before like buildings and cars and shit, and it was just us everyone was walking around the forest eating mushrooms, you know?
If you had to describe it to me, the difference or like the contrast between something like weed, because like again you describe it as something like it was relaxing, it was like chill, and you take shrooms and you just feel much happier. Like, is it just a mood boost, or how would you compare it to something like weed? Because when I smoke weed and I feel this like warm, cozy feeling, and I just appreciate stuff way more. For other people, like my friend, he gets really paranoid and on weed, and he doesn't know how to act. Like how would you compare that? Because it's similar emotions, right? So how would you compare the shrooms to like something like weed?
Shrooms, more than acid or anything else, is like I would liken to marijuana in that. I mean, you get the cozy feeling and the giggles and stuff,
Mm.
but there's also like this mental acuity that starts to kick in that I've been smoking for fucking 15 years or something, and then at my highest, you don't reach the level of like oneness with shit that you get with mushrooms.
Wow.
You start to, I mean, you know, music sounds better when you're high. Usually,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
listen to
Yeah,
music when I'm zooted, but with mushrooms, you feel it and you can kind of see it and become a part of it,
yeah.
and you can learn to do that with all of your surroundings. And that I really can't get on marijuana. I can't reach that level.
See, I can't talk on that because I never tried mushrooms, so I can't speak on that. But like the way you describe it is just it sounds awesome. So would you describe it as more of like a spiritual inner self development type of thing where you're in your own mind when you listen to music? Because I know what you mean by that. When you get high, you just listen to music, everything sounds more clear and more better, and just the notes hit harder, I guess. Especially like it
Mm-hmm.
depends on what music you listen to as well. Because like say I was listening to rap, I guess that would be just more a fun thing. But like then I switch to something like classical or something more psychedelic. I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. It just feels amazing, right? So like the way they describe, I could kind of imagine the idea of being in this oneness. Because I myself, I did a meditation for the first time, and I think what my brain is doing right now is trying to compare that experience of that oneness I got from meditation to something like you're talking about shrooms, and that it gave you that sense of oneness. Would you say that like lasted, or did it just disappear over like after the trip ended, or do you still have kind of like do you still hold a fragment of like that magic with you?
See, that's the frustrating thing. Because, like, even talking about this shit with you and, like, thinking back on prior trips, like, I get a buzz, like, from the universe. I get, like, this tingle, like, like these entities are listening in, like, kind of
Yeah,
checking
yeah.
in on me every time I do this. And I start noticing, like, fractals and visual snow everywhere, and I start noticing angles and geometric patterns that I would never notice before.
That's crazy.
But it's very frustrating because that magic does wear off.
Now, this is where the big philosophical like question comes into play, right? Because you get like people like monks on these mountains, right? And they're meditating and they have a really like disciplined lifestyle, and I feel like they achieve this in a natural way. But then you can compare that to something like a hippie back then in the back in the days taking shrooms for the first time. Do you think that's comparable to the monk?
Yeah, for sure.
But would you
For
say
sure.
would
I
you
don't.
would you say that it's in the same manner though? Because like the monk's been meditating for like let's just say, as an idea, I guess, 20, 30 years of his life, and he's mastered the art of meditation, and he's calmed his mind, and he's at peace with everything. Nothing can get him angry. Now the hippie, he just does the shrooms, and like you say, it wears off. Do you think it yet that they hold the same magic, or is it just in the moment?
I think meditation and psychedelics are really closely connected. I think if you meditate when you're not on psychedelics, you can kind of still be tethered to that place a little bit if you get good at it. But even someone that's been solidly, like you said, meditating up on a mountain by themselves for the past 30 years and have trained their mind and they're super calm, I'm pretty sure if they took 3 hits of DMT, shit would change for them.
That's interesting because I read this story. It was about I think it was a Tibetan monk, and there was this. I guess it was like a science experiment, and these people gave him LSD, and the monk said it was just like it was not. Well, he didn't say it was nothing, but the way I guess what he said, I can't go word for word what he said, but it went along the lines of like it was kind of like a playful trip, like it nothing compared to what he sees like when he's like in the deep meditative state. It's just the craziest thing is that there's so many different people in this world and so many different trips, and I hear stories on people taking DMT and they're like, oh, I just experienced the start of the universe, the beginning. It was so crazy. It was the most scariest thing ever in my life. And they have a traumatic experience, and then like another person could be like, bro, I just I met God, I saw the light, I came at peace with everything, I saw the oneness. And it's such a contrast between the same molecule, right? It's the same substance.
Yeah. Um, and also very similar. Like if you read 100 mushroom reports, they would probably all be different. If you read 100 DMT reports,
That's the
maybe
craziest
half of
part.
them would be like very similar.
Because what I've heard, they see jesters,
It's
right? And
strange.
you saw the jesters yourself. And I know you have crazy stories about that. I'm not gonna get into that just yet, but like, right? So like, cause in DMT there's like a world to it. It's not just like, oh yeah, you see sacred geometry on the walls and you see this and that. No, you honestly see this. Well, I guess similar things. It's not always going to be the same, but the way people describe it, they see justice, they see the machine elves, they see this crazy geometric realm, and it's like also similar that like you can't just put that to the side and be like, oh no, it's just a trip. There's no meaning to it. You're just your brain's on some chemicals right now, and that's how it's establishing the experience. No, like there's something more to it. If you're seeing the same world, if you're getting similar and like I guess the same messages from those, whatever you want to call them, because I haven't. Well, I mean, I have a story of like how I possibly might have met one, but I'm not gonna get into that because that was just a dream. At least that's how I got it. But it was some crazy shit. Like, but yeah, not to like just completely change the subject from shrooms to DMT, but like how would you compare? Because you just told me that you wouldn't put it in the same category. What's so different about DMT once you take it?
Um, the, the one thing I would disagree with is it doesn't take you to another place. It shows you the place you're actually in.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. That's the craziest
That's
part.
that's the thing. It wasn't like it took me away. It was like all of the things I've ever known dissolved, and it made room for this real place, this real thing, this real existence that was happening that I couldn't believe I had forgotten about. It felt so real and so fucking familiar that I just like started crying. I was overwhelmed. I was like, I can't believe I forgot this.
And it's such a personal experience because like listen, right, I've never taken DMT, so it's such an uneducated and disrespectful thing for me to even talk about this. But just to
No, it's
describe
awesome.
just to describe my experience on I'm 99% sure DMT could be like if I did take it. I was, it was a dream. I could tell you that much. It was in a dream state. But what I saw was exactly what, I've seen these DMT videos, but what I saw was so exact described in DMT that I just can't slide it off as just a dream because it felt so fucking real when I did experience it. It was like I saw this Aztec warrior, and then there was these little beings walking around, and it was a geometric realm as it's described, and so many different
Right.
colors that I can't describe, and sound and I heard music that just it wasn't music from this place, this plane, I guess. So it was so crazy that like from an outsider's point of view, if I were to tell this to someone else, they'll be like, "You're crazy. What are you on about? You just had a dream." But since you had that experience, I'm guessing you could kind of like put the puzzle pieces together. Like, how would you describe my experience? Would you say it is anything like DMT, or is it? What would you just say it's just a dream and I should just let it go?
I don't know if I know the difference. Like it sounds beautiful. It sounds like the beginning of the Wizard of Oz when all of the Munchkins are coming out and greeting
It
Dorothy.
was the most
When you say
beautiful
like the little
shit.
guys running around.
I'm not even. I don't know. It's so hard to describe to someone that's never experienced it, and the fact that I felt like I had a glimpse of a glimpse of that real world, like because you said it feels more real, and like you forgot something.
Well, let me ask you this: Did this dream happen after you started to take an interest in this stuff?
Yes, I actually did, but it wasn't. The way I actually. The funny thing, I was watching your videos, as around the same time. So I was going through your old videos and like about the DMT and when you would talk about the jesters and stuff, and this was around the same time. And then occasionally, because I'm not sure if you know, but I'm a rapper, right? So I was just like, what I would do, I would like set this like I guess tradition for myself that I would watch DMT simulations whilst writing lyrics, and it would always keep me in like this peace of mind where I could write the craziest shit, I guess, because of that. If it empowered me, right? So it was all around the same time I was watching your videos, these DMT simulations, and of course
Yeah.
you could play into the dream. That's you could say it was just you were watching these DMT videos so much that it kind of like came into your dream and you made this all up. But to me, it felt so real that I can't just say that. It didn't feel like a dream. I know what a dream feels like. I know what a realistic dream feels like. This was something entirely else.
No, I wouldn't dismiss it. If anything, it sounds like it's confirmation
Exactly.
that like you're on some kind of path where you've taken an interest in this, and maybe something is aware that you're watching these videos and writing into these visuals and
Maybe.
becoming tethered to that other place, and they're showing you
Hmm.
something. They love to show you shit. That's their deal. They like to impress you.
But it also felt so powerful. Like, God, that's the consciousness we could reach if we put in that effort. If we all just became peaceful one day, that's something we could be.
Well, have you considered that you're the Aztec warrior?
I have actually, and it's such a. I would describe it as it's such a strange like way to look at it because I have nothing to do with Aztec warriors. Like my heritage doesn't go back to Aztecs. It's nothing like that, right? So I'm not sure if that
Right.
even makes sense. But then I know, like, at least I think Aztec warriors were around in Brazil, and when DMT was around and in the Amazon and shit.
Hmm.
So that's the craziest part to me. I'm seeing these beings, and this was the culture of the people that I guess discovered DMT, and I mean ayahuasca because DMT is a separate thing. So like
Yeah.
I can't play into that, you know what I mean? But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I would say that I could see myself as the Aztec warrior. I definitely had a similar consciousness to that before, whilst meditating. But I wouldn't say I am the Aztec warrior. I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
Because I've seen many different entities. I've seen what I would call angels. I have the tall things. I've seen machine elves. I've seen jesters. I've seen like these insect things.
Mm.
But it wasn't until the jesters that I felt like those are me. Those represent me. They're laughing like me. They're amused by the same things I am. They're acting like I would. They know how to get my attention. They're like super intelligent, upgraded versions of what I am.
Every time I saw the video you did about something to do with the jesters, I'll go crazy. I'm like, this guy is having like some weird ass experience with the jesters. And when you did like that, I think I'm not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Cujo. You did an interview with him, and you were talking about the story about like I think you crashed your car, and then you saw these like the jesters laughing at you or some shit.
Yeah, and they did it again a couple months ago. I locked my keys and my phone in the car outside of a Denny's, and I was so upset with myself. And I sat on the curb in front of the car, and I looked up at my car, and the corner of it, like it was kind of reflecting the light in the car next to it, and it was making this weird mirror effect on the car, and it was a fucking jester face. And if I moved my head either like a little bit to the left or the right, the light would bend and the face would go away. At the exact place I sat down and chose to feel sorry for myself, there was a big laughing jester face the second I looked up.
That's crazy. That's insane. God.
They do shit like that. And it the thing, it was a tree branch that fell on my car. And they were just like, "Hey, that's funny. Hey, that's funny. Fucking laugh at this. You could get upset. That's easy. Like, think about this in a different way. That's funny. You got a new car and we just dropped a tree on it. That's funny. Like, laugh about that. You can choose to handle this in a different way. This doesn't have to be as bad as you think." You know, they were just around me being silly. Like, that's funny. If you can't see the humor in this, then fuck you. Like, we think it's funny. You should think that's funny. You know, don't let those silly human thoughts, get to you.
Would you say they have a personality, or are they different every time, or do they have like a, I guess, consistent personality throughout every experience you've seen them manifest in real life? That's like, the car situation, the key situation.
They treat me differently at different times, but they're always like the same things. Definitely, I couldn't mistake them for something different.
Yeah, and Joe Rogan, he had the same situation happen to him. He saw the jesters and they flipped him the finger, I think.
Yep.
But that's,
Yeah, you don't get to pick.
it
That's the
is.
thing.
It's like, especially like you want to go like into a trip, you have a certain mindset of like how it's gonna go. It's always gonna be different. It's always gonna be
You
different.
have a mindset the first time you do DMT, you think you know what's going to happen, and then every time after that, you know that you just have to surrender
Yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
yeah. Physically, you see their reflections, you see them laughing. Ah, that's insane.
One of them tried to touch my nose. They all of a sudden got right in my face, and they had a big long nose, a big smile with like sharp teeth, and they were trying to touch my nose with their nose, like just to fuck with me, just to get me to recoil and like, oh no, get out of my face, and they would laugh and try to poke my nose again. Jumping in and out of my body one time and like scurrying away and laughing and jumping back in my body, and every time I'd freak out, like these other ones would be like, he's just fucking with you, don't, he's funny like that, isn't he funny, just laugh at him, like
Mm.
don't let him fuck with you, he's nothing.
They just see the humor in everything, and they just know deep down that none of this shit matters. They're just letting you know, like, none of your problems are really relevant to anything.
That's almost exactly it. It's like all your human shit is so silly, we just laugh at it. Look at all the cool stuff we're having, look how much fun we have, look how peaceful and perfect everything is right now.
Why do you think it's gestures you're seeing? Why do they manifest in that form?
Because that's me. I'm a very non-serious person. I fuck around. I dick around with people. I'm always playing jokes. I'm never serious. I like to troll people. I like to get under people's skin. I like to laugh a lot. Like I'm a very
Yeah.
like non-serious person most of the time, and that's why I just connect with them so hard. But the first time I saw them, I was seeing like a lot of DNA helixes. Like I was like morphing into my own DNA and seeing like if my personality could pop outside of me and laugh at me and interact with me, that's what it would represent. I would be a goofy clown motherfucker, I guess.
Yeah, but like, I get what you mean. That it's kind of like incarnation of your personality, and of course it's gonna be a clown. But then why is there so many other people that see these clowns as well? Like, is there any? I don't know. Is like a deep rooted thing in our DNA, to where these, I guess, these like clown figures are kind of like within us all the time, but we just have to be in a certain consciousness. Now, I mean, I understand. I'm just getting into like a more philosophical ideology. I'm not actually speaking on like the experiences in themselves and the core message. I'm just trying to get into more of the actual beings themselves.
Maybe all the entities are just hanging out in this realm, and you smoke DMT and your chemicals change, and you're able to lift that veil up for 15, 20 minutes, whatever. Maybe a certain group just takes a certain person and has messages specifically for them or knows how to interact with them so that they get the most out of it. I've had feelings where I talked to my friend about the entities and I was telling them things and what I thought. And on my next trip, they showed me like telling him things and sending him messages. And they were like, no, we'll talk to him. We'll talk to him the way I talk to him. Don't plant other ideas. And like, we have a plan for him. Don't fuck around with that.
Is this referring to the Idea Factory video we did?
Exactly.
This is, DMT is naturally found in nature itself. It's something we're around all the time, and possibly in our brains, in our pineal glands and lungs.
Oh yeah.
It's the craziest thing to me.
Yeah, it's in all of us. It's in animals. It's in plants. It's as much a part of this world as anything else.
And it's like we can access this. We can access this whenever we really want to, whenever we really want, like, feel the need to.
Yeah, you can make it. Like it's readily available.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's crazy that it's such a big secret to most of the people in this world. People have been doing it for thousands of years and nobody knows about it.
I mean, in most places it's illegal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely illegal.
Like I guess I can understand reasons why it would be illegal. Not everybody has great experiences on that, and sometimes it's more of a negative impact on those people. But even so, like, there's so much benefits to it, and the fact that something like alcohol or cigarettes, and I know that's a common trait that someone would compare it to as an argument, but it's so true that you kind of have to point it out that why is alcohol available anywhere? You could buy it in any store, but then DMT, something that actually has what I would describe as spiritual, mental, and just all around a beneficial effect, illegal.
Yeah, I don't even want to guess the number of people that go to the liquor store, buy liquor, and then crash their car that night on a daily basis. And I can tell you that's never happened to people on DMT, like, or anything like that. Like, you never hear of a group of people taking a bunch of mushrooms and then like robbing a bank.
No, never.
Like, that shit doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
Like, the worst thing you probably like hear is like, some person with mental health issues took shrooms or like acid, and they fucking stripped naked and start hugging trees and shouting everything isn't real, this is all a lie, it's all permitted. Like, that's common though. That's just you not understanding and panicking about the situation. And of course, not everybody crashes their cars and kills someone when they're drinking, but it's still
Of course not.
but like, there's still that negative side to that, and I've seen that negative side to it myself. It made me depressed for a while, and I knew better, but I just took it because I was bored. I was drinking because I was bored, and I realized that I'm not going to do that as much, or I'll do that way less, because I've had these, I guess, profound experiences, and they showed me a way more positive way to deal with those situations.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, and that shit'll hinder your creativity too as a writer.
Yeah.
I'm a writer too. Like, I still do poetry and shit, but I used to write screenplays, and like, I romanticize the idea of being like this drunk, like tortured artist kind of writer, and but I don't drink, so I never got there. I don't like alcohol.
That's the thing. We see it it's in every TV show, in every sitcom you watch. It's like the idea of being depressed, and I guess, like, drink, and it's become more of a like comedy now. Like, it's not taken as seriously, and if it is, it's always just like, oh,
You're right.
It's like it's become a personality trait more than something that's very fucking serious, and people need to understand that it's not okay to even feel that way. I mean, we all are, we all have the freedom to feel that way, but we shouldn't be looking at it as it's like a good way to handle a situation or your depression. But it's so available that people just, I guess, choose to drink, liquor or go smoke to relieve stress.
Right. And once it becomes commonplace in movies and TV and music and shit, it becomes like the go-to thing. Like, oh, you're feeling shitty, why don't you go have a drink?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what everybody else does.
Because a friend of mine told me to watch BoJack Horseman. I'm not sure if you ever watched it, and
A little bit. I know what you're talking about.
it's a good show. But what I do see constantly, and I guess it's a comedy, so it does make sense. But I just don't. It doesn't feel right to see like the main character just get drunk and depressed and all around just like ruining his life. And it definitely does have a anti message on it. It's not like, oh, go drink and it'll help you, but like some of the jokes just kind of do say the opposite of that. And that's the craziest thing to me because that's just one show out like so many on something like Netflix or like Amazon Prime or anything you really want to watch on, right? So you just see movies and these like shows they just promote the same thing all around, or like materialistic
Yeah.
things. For example, they'll promote materialistic things as a way to deal with it. Or if you hate your life or if you're dealing with serious problems, go buy yourself the new computer or the new PS5. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Girls get sad about something. It's like, oh, let's go shopping. Let's go buy clothes.
It's the craziest thing to me.
Let's take a pretty picture and put it up on Facebook. It's like it's all ego stuff.
Yeah.
It's all facade. It's all mask. Nothing to do with you.
Would you say that people are becoming more aware to the problems?
I don't know if problems are even the same thing anymore. Because like 30 years ago, it was like you had a problem, you'd fix it, you'd let it fuck you, And now it's like you got a problem. Well, the first thing I got to do is go on Twitter and let everybody know what my problem is. And then let me check my Twitter and see if other people have that problem or if they've commented on my problem so I can comment to them and then see if they comment on my pictures so I can comment on their comment. And it becomes this loop where like nothing's happening. You've made no progress. It's all like lateral sideways movements. You haven't solved this problem. Just letting other people know there is one.
I feel like we trained our mind to be wired that way, especially me. Like, I complain about this shit, but then I do the same thing. There's been multiple times I had to delete Instagram because I would just keep going on it. It's like the most common shit because everyone does that shit. Like, you've probably done that. Like, I'm guessing with your channel because, like, there was that one video that blew up and you probably must have got some, like an egotistical boost of some type. And that's completely normal, A lot of people do that. So when I had Instagram, I would just like always look for something to post, always look for something to say. But it was always just an ego boost, and it was just a way, like the quickest way for me to interpret the problems and the struggles I had at that moment and deal with them or distract myself from them.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that one video, it wasn't like an ego boost because none of the other videos came close to those numbers. It was more like, I don't know how this shit works. I don't know what I did differently on that one or who got a hold of that and sent it to people. Like, I don't look into like the analytics or anything to really know how that works,
Yeah, I mean, that was my bad if I like, I guess, assumed something. But like,
no, I mean it was awesome, and I wish they all had those kind of numbers. But it was more like I don't know what happened there.
Do you think it was some mystical like destiny thing, or do you just think it was just not accident, but like that's just the way it was?
I think it has something to do with like the YouTube was like recommending that video to people after a different video or some shit that I don't understand. I don't know.
It had like so many comments and likes. I think it might have been the title, to be honest, because like it really does depend on the title and the video itself.
Yeah.
Is interesting.
Yeah, I need to pay attention to that more in like the description and tags and shit. I don't even watch the videos, so like heck, I just post them.
I mean, that's the thing I love about your channel, though, because like I've seen many like similar YouTubers to you, and they would whilst they were doing the same thing, it seemed so fake and forced to me. Whilst like someone like you, because I remember I used to watch Psyched Substance, I think, a lot, and
Yeah.
nowadays it just seems like he's not respecting the things he's taking anymore, and he's just kind of like, oh, well, what can I do for the next video? What's the next facade? Eating spicy noodles and taking shrooms and seeing the effects, like the dumbest shit, right? And then I would watch your videos and it'd be so genuine, where it's like, I didn't want to make this video, but like I'm just in my garden and I'm just taking shrooms, and you'll be honest with your problems, and sometimes it wouldn't be serious. It would be like, what was that thing, Karam Jeremy or something? It was like some random video, but
The Karan Jeremy, yeah.
oh god, it was like, that's what I love about your channel, because there was no like force content, I guess.
Oh, because you can tell. Like, I don't know. You're right. Like, a lot of it is like, it starts that way. Like, they're just telling stories and putting cool ideas out there. And then all of a sudden, it's like, they're wearing a bunch of makeup and they're selling T-shirts
Exactly.
or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's that's not what I liked it for. But whatever. I put minimal effort into them, but something told me to just start telling people these stories.
Like, I wanted to do a similar thing, just like put my thoughts out on the internet, but I never had the confidence to do that. So like seeing someone like you kind of like, just take that into initiative for yourself is just awesome.
Yeah. The psychedelics really pushed me to do it. They're becoming such an important part of my life that I had to record the shit that was happening to me.
I'm guessing you take psychedelics a lot, and you made it a part of your life. Do you still get people that like look at you weirdly, or make weird assumptions about you just because they are uneducated about it, or it's just not like a typical thing to do?
No, of course. Fortunately, it's probably always going to be that way, but yeah, and maybe it should make them feel weird because it also like I feel like it makes me hard to talk to sometimes because I'm in a different place than other people a lot of the time.
And a lot of people get depressed on that because it's like, what is it? I think they call it spiritual depression, because like the more you become aware, the less people understand you, and it's like the more you feel isolated and lonely, and it's kind of like it kind of weighs on you over time, and you feel like you're insane, or like you're all by yourself in it. But like realistically, deep down, I think we all know that it's like a lot of people are on the same wavelength. Because like right now, I wouldn't be speaking to you if I didn't connect with your videos. I wouldn't have any interest to even interview you or make a podcast with you, right? And in
Right.
fact, there's so many people out there that could connect, especially now there's like an access to the internet that's instant on your phone. A couple taps and you could be talking to someone that had the same experience as you on, for example, like shrooms or something, or like the Torah, like the craziest shit. And suddenly all that like isolation and then like your craziness kind of disappears and fades away, because you're like, oh, I'm not alone in this shit. So like, that's one great thing about these apps and social media we use, but we just don't use it in a productive way. And that's partly because the way it was I guess the way it was pushed out. At least that's how I feel, like just the advertisement of like, hey, you could become a social media motivator now, but then it becomes an ego thing. Like,
Mm-hmm. And me and I don't know if you saw the video with Quantum Kitty.
yeah, I did, yeah.
Um, a lot of it, we talked a lot off camera too, so I don't know if it made it on there, but we were talking kind of about the same shit me and Cujo were talking about, how like we sit there and talk about how we don't like people and we're so antisocial and we don't put ourselves out there and shit, and yet we are conducting a podcast that people are going to listen to. It's that dynamic where it's like I hate my fucking phone and I wish I could have it off at all times,
Yeah,
but I'm also always on my phone.
it's like you become the hypocrite of like your own.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I'm totally aware of it, but I've assimilated to this bullshit.
We all it's so we live in weird times, because like a lot of people like to complain about how, oh, I wish there was no phones, no technology, and we were just connected in nature, and we were like the tribal people back in the day, and everything would be so much better and shit. But like, no, like You really like just learn to appreciate the roof that's over your head. Like it's that
Yeah,
simple.
you wouldn't last an hour without all these things that you swear you want to shed your soul from.
Exactly, and we become so contradictory, and I think that's also a ego thing because we don't even realize we feel like, oh, like I'm a spiritual aware person. I know my shit. I learn how to meditate. I'm so peaceful. But then you want to kind of like isolate yourself from all this shit that's actually beneficial to you, but you just made it, you demonized it for yourself.
Yeah, you meditate for 5 minutes and then your phone goes off and you're like, oh,
Mm,
lights on, plugging back into the matrix.
exactly.
Like me and my buddy took some acid and went out to a park one time. And when we got out there and like laid down in the field, I was like, you should shut your phone off. He's like, why? And I started fucking with him. I was like, because I gave you acid for free. So my rule is shut your phone off. And he goes, all right. And he went to shut it off. And he looks up at me so sad and he goes, dude, I don't think I can. And I go, why? You need me to do it for you? He goes, no, not like that. Like, I can't. And I go, yeah, you can. Trust me, you'll have a better time. Shut your phone off. And he goes, I'm just going to put it on silent. I can't shut it off, in case somebody needs something. I'm like, man, it's crazy. There was a time, I remember a time before cell phones where you could just hang out for a couple hours and the world would keep spinning and it was fine and nobody needed you right then. But I saw the inner battle between he knew he should shut his phone off and he just can't do it.
That seems like euphoria, like for real, like a utopian world where there's. I don't think technology is bad necessarily. I just think the way that we become so dependent and it's, I guess we've become so attached and clingy to it. Because a couple days ago, I would come home after a long day, and the first thing I would do is go on my phone, and then hours go by. I'm like, fuck, all that shit I was talking about, like, oh, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna write lyrics, I'm gonna write a new song, I'm gonna record something. No, you know what I did? I was on my phone scrolling through social media for 3 hours, and I wasted so much valuable time. It's we become so dependent and attached to it that it's just it's sad.
Yeah, I don't see it reversing itself either.
It definitely with like the new generations coming in now, and like younger kids are already becoming so attached to it. Like it's scary in a way, but at the same time interesting to see like the new generations kind of like develop into this digitalized world.
Yeah, I don't. It's like they don't have a chance. It's like the whole digital thing should be like in the background of your life. It should be a tool that you're using. It shouldn't be using you as a tool and recommending stuff for you to click on. I hate getting on YouTube because I was gonna look up something, but I never got to it because the fucking homepage knows other things that I would like to watch right now.
I was on my phone and I did the same exact thing.
Yeah, it's like, what was I looking up? It doesn't fucking matter because here's this MMA video I have to watch now,
Hmm.
and it's 20 minutes long, so I know what I'm doing for the next 20 minutes. You know,
It's so
it's not
weird
what I
for
opened
me.
my plastic for.
It's so weird for me because like I was in college a while back and someone asked me what are you gonna do this weekend. I'm like, not much. I don't know. Like I don't really have much to do because I genuinely don't do like much interesting things because I guess just that's the way I'm wired. I do the same similar things every day, but it's productive in a way. And he's like, oh, what? You have like a PS4, you got a PS3, like anything. I'm like, yeah, I do, but it's like I don't really use it. I'm not into that. I'm not like, I guess I'm not connected as much in that like digitalized world as other people I know, and it's kind of like scary seeing them like, oh yeah, like I asked them what did you do today, and it's like, oh, I just been playing games all day, and I just I've been playing FIFA and GTA, and like fuck, like you're in your childhood, like you're a teenager. You should be spending your time outside. You should be discovering yourself, and it's like so crazy that people find that as like a weird, quirky thing, when it should just be a normal thing where you could go out in your neighborhood and see kids your age or people your age, and you can hang out with them. But it's become so uncommon now that it's kind of like,
It's
yeah,
gone.
it's gone. It is.
It's gone. I like. I'll have those days where I will play video games and do nothing on purpose. Where like everybody's out of the house, I get to do whatever I want all of a sudden. And I don't know what to do when that happens. When I don't have a kid to take care of, or it's just do whatever you want. I turn into a 15-year-old me again.
Exactly.
And I just smoke pot and play video games and do nothing and make it okay for myself to be bored, and try to justify it because it's just an escape. That's all it is. When people start living in that escape, and that's when it becomes kind of scary, is that you don't leave your escape. You don't stop staring at your phone. There's always a glow on your face because you're escaping 20 hours out of the day.
It's so weird to like even, I guess, be around in like such a like, I wouldn't say meaningless, but it's almost become meaningless. Like sometimes I find myself and you find yourself and others find yourself like just doing the most pointless things, wasting so much valuable time. Like we're not in this universe for like a long while. Like the universe is 14 point something billion years old, and we only have like 100 years if we're lucky. And the fact that we just find more ways to distract ourselves and never accomplish anything we've had dreams about, or like go on a walk and discover yourself for real, heal yourself, mentally. But now, like everyone's just, I guess, become the personalities, and everyone's just become the mask.
Yeah, it's easier to run from the world than to kick its ass,
Yeah.
Psychedelics, one of the things I've definitely learned on psychedelics is that people are very good at finding excuses to not do exactly what they know they should be doing. It's not a secret. They don't need to talk to a therapist or a guru or anything like that. Most people know exactly what they should be doing and what they're doing wrong, and they choose not to do the right thing for themselves or what have you. We make excuses about these things all day.
I agree. But just moving on to the topic, because I don't want to, vent on this whole thing for like an hour straight. So, like, you're surrounded, I'm guessing, in this community with your friends, and you all take psychedelics, you all trip. No, you don't?
90% of my trips are just me. Once in a great while, I'll, invite a friend over. Let's go to the park and do some acid.
Right, yeah.
It's only been with like 3 or 4 people, though. It's usually me.
Well, okay, how about a community thing, right? So you're surrounded in a community online, I'm guessing. And you're in a community.
Yeah, okay, if that's what you mean, yeah.
I guess that's more of a better understanding, I guess. But like,
well, it's 2020, so a community is a digital community. Yeah,
digital community. There we go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So being surrounded in this digital community, whether it be spiritual or like these spiritual gurus that claim to change your life and for the better and heal all your problems and all this crap. And then also like if you take the psychedelic, it will change your life. It will do all this, or all your problems will be gone. How do you feel like some of the big YouTubers or like big influencers, how they create this shit? Do you think that is good? Do you think it's helping people? Or do you think it's become another like way for people to become big, only to like become a personality and not genuinely be interested in like what they make?
I think everything becomes that. Whether it be, movies or music, eventually everything gets so diluted that it's about making money. And that's just the way it works. Like, if somebody came to me with a crap ton of money and said, change your channel into this, start talking about this, mention this, of course I would. Like, of course I would sell out. Like, that's in our nature. But I don't think it's helping because they make it sound so easy. Like you said, take the psychedelic, it'll cure your depression, it'll change your life. It'll change the way you think about things. But then you got to use those changes to do the work.
Exactly.
They'll put you on the path, they will give you answers, but then you have to do something with that. It's not like smoke this DMT and 15 minutes later, all your problems will be gone. You'll love your job, everything at home will be fine. Whatever physical ailments you have will be gone. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It'll change your mind and it'll twist your existence in a way to where you suddenly have more tools at your disposal to make things right for yourself. But it's not easy. It's, and I think a lot of them make it sound like it's a cure-all.
Especially the gurus. I see a lot of it. Like, what was it, Sadhguru or some shit? It wouldn't be like he'll be scamming people, but sometimes, occasionally, I would see him like post a video, be like, "Oh, this guy's gonna change your life," and it was just some crazy shit that just made no sense to me, and it just felt so fake for the community to even like, I guess, promote that type of
Mm-hmm.
content. And I'm not deep into the community. I don't go on like fucking slash like, I don't know, like psychedelics or some shit. Like, I'm not on Reddit just every day, but occasionally I check it out, and it just seems so fake, especially like nowadays. There's that, what was it, sun gazing and shit, like, and most of the time it's not even proven to benefit you, and sometimes it could be dangerous, like the weird diets people are doing now, and it's all claimed to help you. It's become so dangerous and like untrustworthy that it's like it's crazy. But I don't know. I was just wondering how you like felt about that, or if you're just like, isolated and you just do it by yourself.
It's I mean, I trip alone, and I don't even like look up trip reports anymore. I don't go on Reddit. I don't look up. I don't watch psychedelic videos on YouTube even. Um, I don't go on that Erowid site anymore. Like, I don't know. I did for a while when I first got into psychedelics. I couldn't stop, like, just absorbing all the information and stories and shit I could. But like you said, you start seeing people's egos get in the way, and you go on the LSD Reddit, and it's just like,
Yeah.
holy shit, guys, look at this, and you click it, and it's like a picture of somebody's carpet.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that's fine, and I get it, but I'm not getting anything out of it. So
And I always felt like that. It feels like you're not really connected with the people. It just seems like a massive crowd. They just don't want to be around at times. Just to get back to the psychedelics, have you ever had any trips that just felt pointless and like kind of like anticlimactic?
yeah, usually on LSD, and usually when I've only waited like 2 weeks to trip again, you build up a tolerance on LSD real quick, and like the worst time was I got a 10 strip of LSD, which was really hard to find, and I took like 3 one night, and I didn't know you shouldn't take it again the next day. Took 3 and had a blast, so I was like, I'll take 3 again tomorrow, and I took 3 and nothing happened. And then I took the next 4. Like, I ended up taking 7 that night, and only kind of reaching the place that 3 got me the previous night. And not only was it a waste of a trip, it was a waste of money.
Have you ever had any experiences that made you question? And I'm not talking about like, oh, this isn't the real world, that's the real world. But like any experience that made you question your sanity, like properly question, and made you like kind of like, I guess, dissociate.
Yeah. Not that it's a psychedelic, but DXM would do that a lot with the dissociative stuff.
How would you describe the experience?
It's so... I don't know. It made me feel like stupid, I guess. Like I was just laying there like a stupid dying bug most of the time. Physically, it wasn't like I could even get up most of the time. It was just like lucid dreaming for hours and hours on end.
Sounds crazy.
And making the strangest connections in my brain about things in my life. To where now I know certain bands, why I listen to certain bands, and why I like certain movies. And it made me pay attention more to the titles of things and the lyrics of things, and how like shit's not an accident. Nothing I listen to is an accident. Nothing that I deem important is an accident. Like I would dissociate from this place, and it would kind of flip my world around to where I was looking at myself and all my interests and all the shit that I do, and how none of it's an accident, and it's all very carefully planned. And that shit was wild. Have you ever heard of the band Every Time I Die? Probably not.
No, I haven't.
They're like this hardcore band. They've been around like 20 years, and they've always been my favorite band. And I was on DXM. I thought I was dying because I kept like slipping away. Like I kept feeling myself going away. And every time that would happen, I would feel so scared and then so blissful. Like, oh, I should have just let go. And then I would snap out of it and go, I don't want to do that again. And then I would go, oh, I should just let go. And I go, no, 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 I shouldn't die right now. And I got this message, like something told me, doesn't that feel awesome every time you do it though? I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like, every time you die. And I go, wait a second, what the fuck? And they're like, isn't it awesome every time you die? And I'm like, every time I die, that's the fucking band I listen to. And they're like, yeah, you die many times. And I'm like, die many times, DMT. Oh, fuck. And that happened for hours. And I was just laying there, like, everything in my life connected. And I was just seeing these patterns in my life that I could never see before. That's kind of what dissociatives do to me, is they put everything out there and show you how things are lining up for you and why you're lining these things up.
Honestly, that just sounds scary, but like crazy. That just I don't know. That's crazy. Like I've had like really like mentally like fucked dream. I guess trips where like people would take the Torah and they would see the most fucked like mutilated bodies and stuff like that, and and sometimes they would get benefits from it, but other times they would be fucked for life, and that trip would never end. And it's become like this, like I guess like a creepy bedside story, but it's also real because there's been people, trip reports where people say that that's happened to them and life's never been the same. And the fact that you made those connections like DMT, die many times, it's kind of like irrational, but like I guess I see where you're coming from, because like there's been days when I'm like fuck, nothing matters. We're all made of atoms, and well, we've only been around for a very fucking short time. I'm not me. I'm basically everyone, and it's all just a consciousness. And I kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing because you're destroying the old masked self that you were before, but it also kind of ruins some of that, like I guess that innocence that you had beforehand.
That's why a lot of people are scared to do psychedelics, because it's not
Well.
always fun to learn about yourself on such a concrete level like that. It's not like you're sitting there consciously making these connections. They are downloading that information into you. Like they're punching your brain with it. You have no choice. They're making those connections for you.
Fuck, I lost my train of thought, but have you ever had like experiences where you've seen something that you were really scared of, like say your biggest fears come to, I guess, manifest in your trips?
No, like nothing that I personally feared, but I've definitely seen like horrible things. But it was the trip trying to scare me, and I knew not to let it.
Yeah.
Like it started to take a dark turn, and I realized it, and I started getting visuals of just like skulls and like blood pouring out of things, and just like just like death and like mutilation and shit. And I kept like just shaking it out of my head. Like that's yeah, imagine thinking about that right now. Like that's not
Yeah.
not gonna let that get to me.
I've always had this weird thing, just similar to you, where this was not even like I was sober, right? And I guess it was more like I was delirious. I was really tired, and I would close my eyes and I would keep seeing these fucked images in my head, like deers in the night, or so it was something like you'll see deer in the night, and then like the next thing would be like someone with a gun, and it'll be all like really fucked up mutilated bodies out of nowhere, but it wasn't anything that I wanted to see. It was kind of like my mind's making those images to scare me.
Yeah, they're called intrusive thoughts. Look it up. There's stuff you can do about it, but that happens to absolutely everybody. Ever been in the car driving down the road and there's a car coming the other way, and you think how easy it would be to just turn the wheel and crash into them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean,
I think about it all the time. Or throwing my phone out the car window. Like
yeah, just like
I have these thoughts every day. Something you'll never act on, but something that pokes at you for no reason.
I never heard of that. I need to search that up. Fuck. Yeah, I was just wondering because
Yeah, intrusive thoughts. That's what that is.
that was like one of my biggest fears for even trying psychedelics for the first time because I never tried them. But I was like, fuck, what if I do take this and I'll see the most scariest shit and it will just traumatize me or I don't know. I just won't be the same after it. Like it's always like mostly irrational, but there's still that chance that it might happen, and then what will happen after that? Will I ever take him again? I guess it go down this rabbit hole, but
Right, and that's all human thoughts. Like that's all just human worrying, overthinking, rationalizing, analyzing. Like that's all stuff they find so silly.
hmm.
Like, I remember I'm such an analytical person. The first time I did DMT, I was seeing these lights and colors and things, and I was so amazed, and I was trying to like piece it all together. I'm like, I'm seeing this amazing, impossible thing in front of me, but what is it? Like, how can I describe this to my buddies later? And they kept going, stop looking at that. Stop thinking about that. Like, think about it later. You're getting too caught up in it. Like, and I realized that's such a big part of psychedelics is letting go and not being worried even about the first trip or if you're going to have a bad time or if there's going to be a second time. Like, and like you've done your research, you talk about this shit. You had your dream that you think may be nothing that I think is a lot more than you think it is. Um, you've watched enough videos and visuals to kind of have an idea of what this is way more than most people that do it. So
I definitely do have like a good scale of knowledge about this shit, but like I don't. I guess my way of thinking is that it will never actually amount to the actual trip itself. But I mean, then again, the first time I did weed, I was thinking it's gonna be some crazy shit, and when I did it, I was perfectly fine. I enjoyed it. I didn't question it too much, and it was just something I rolled with as it was happening. So I guess if I have the same mindset, but just a different drug or different psychedelic, because I don't like calling it drugs, I feel like that gives it a bad connotation. But like if I just try these new, interesting, I guess, tools to explore my mind, then it'll mostly be beneficial and it might help me and it'll give me a greater understanding than I already have.
especially if you look at it that way. If you look at it a way to learn something about yourself or better yourself or into the experience instead of like how I was on these first couple of trips where I was like, oh, acid, I go get fucked up with my friends. I never thought about like I should be learning from this or doing this properly. You're already way more prepared than you probably think you are.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you tried mushrooms, you would have an awesome time and you'd go, well, that was crazy. Um, Definitely going to do that again. And these are the things I'll do differently next time.
Yeah.
And then you just do that a couple times until you're like, it's, you know how to drive the vehicle at that point.
I hear a lot of time people describe it as it was something like mushrooms is like what was it again, like mushrooms is like being in the back seat of a car, and then LSD is like being in the like driving the like car.
Wow, I've never heard that.
I heard it. I heard it in like a comment section or something. I don't know. It's always intrigued me because I don't understand what that metaphor really means.
I like that. I kind of do.
How would you
Um,
describe that to me? Like someone who's never actually
this
taken
is,
it.
it's going to sound very basic and it might not make any sense, but the way my mind wants to say it is that when you're on mushrooms, everything's awesome. Everything around you is completely awesome. And when you're on LSD, you're awesome. I, I don't know. I think that's the way I would say it.
I can understand that now a bit more. Yeah. I
It's like on mushrooms, you're looking into a light. On LSD, you're the light.
see because I see it also being described as like shrooms as like the earth's energy, right? Just the earth's essence, because it's from nature, and then LSD is like the cosmic energy and like everything above. And I don't know. That's just another way I've seen it
Yeah,
described.
Yeah, yeah, that's, and maybe that's just the nature of mushrooms coming from the ground or whatever. But yeah, completely. On mushrooms, I get so in tune with nature and just being outside and everything. And acid, I could be inside or outside.
Nature doesn't get enough props, honestly.
Also on acid, I feel like the moon is fake.
Because there's so much
What did
theories
you say?
about there's theories now as well, like the
It
moon,
is.
some.
I mean, I don't know anything. I don't know anything, but I have my doubts now.
I kind of like meditate on that feeling of fuck. I just exist. I exist, and I've probably been here like a billion more times.
Hmm.
Do you ever get like that? Because like I literally just out of my mind, I'm like fuck. And it's like this anxiety that I exist, and this is not gonna end.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what happens when people start trying to mix ideas of God and
Yeah,
science together.
yeah. It's such a like it's a slippery
You
slope.
end up with more questions,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, the way I put it, that if God is real, it's just the essence of the universe itself, like on many dimensions, right? Because I'm not trying to get into
Yeah.
like what I believe, because that's a bit selfish, but I get that's what I've
No, it's
experienced.
not.
I find it selfish in a way that like my opinion probably doesn't matter as much as anyone else's, right? Because realistically, we are just bugs on this scale, on a physical scale, as biological beings, we are just bugs on the rock, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So me like even thinking about something so me even trying to interpret the big picture of what the universe is, what's the meaning and why it is. I see it as just existence experiencing itself, because fundamentally that's what's happening.
It is, but I also think you're a more important part of that than you're realizing.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I guess
Like,
I didn't
yeah,
really
right
think
now
about
we're
it.
bugs under the rock, and we realize that, and it's depressing to fucking know that there's an end to this, and there may not be another beginning, and to have all those questions. Or you could think of it as you're actually this ball of light, this fucking Aztec god, you know? Like, this could be you experiencing existence. That
Exactly.
could be what all of this is. The second you die, all of this could shut off. I could not exist at all. I could just be a part of your timeline that came in. We made this connection, had this talk.
Not in a depressing way that like, oh, we're just bugs on the planet. I think that's a sick thing in itself, that life even came to be and how complex that thing is, and that there's sacred geometry within this and the nature and all this shit. I feel like that's fucking amazing. Some of the people just might see it as like, oh, it's just depressing. Like, what do we mean nothing to the universe in the big picture? Like, nah, I just find it as like, this is me. This is who I am. I can't change that. I'll just experience that as I go through this, whatever the fuck this is, right? I can't even put it to words because we don't know. But like, then I also agree with you, the whole idea that we are the light and we are basically everything, and because I mean, it's not a hard concept to really like grasp, I guess, because it's so simple. But it's we've all felt like that before, I think. And if someone hasn't, then I'm sorry, but that's like such a unfortunate thing for someone to not ever experience the idea that we are like much greater than what we even think we are.
Yeah, and that's probably just people being so busy and so caught up in their lives that you don't take that second to really realize where you are and what you're doing. And like I said, like the idea of timelines, like you were born this time, maybe for the first time, maybe for the billionth time, but you're in this timeline, you're experiencing this world, this technological boom. Um, you're this is your time, this is your story. You're you're the narrator. You're writing this right now. Everything you do today and tomorrow, that goes into the book. Everything you're doing is going into that story. So if you get too caught up in the other things, a lot of people don't get that realization that this is my fucking book. I should be doing the most with it. No one else is going to do it. No one's going to write it for me and make it awesome and make me a celebrity. And that's
Yeah.
it's yours. It's yours to write. If you become those things, you do it. And that makes you so much more important than a lot of us like to think of us. It's not egotistical to think that a lot of this is about you, you know.
Of course it is. Like, of course, like from my point of view, it's about me. From your point of view, it's about you. There's no selfishness in that. Maybe there is, and that's absolutely fine because on a fundamental level, we are us, or we are individual beings, but as a collective, we are something much greater. And I think even individually, we are something much greater and that we could connect and tap into at any time. We just don't give it enough appreciation because we're so, like you said, caught up in our lives and all this human shit. It really doesn't matter. You see animals; they're just chilling. We should be just like that.
Yeah, I think we were at the very beginning.
Probably.
Whatever we were, whenever we came online and got plugged into this place, I think shit was really cool for a while. I really hate the concept of roads and buildings and stuff that, landfills, shit that wasn't here before. And
Exactly.
we came and put it here because this place wasn't good enough for us. And we weren't getting our food fast enough and we weren't traveling fast enough. So we changed the world needs when we already had everything we needed.
But do you believe this like a simulation? Because I'm pretty sure you talked about the Matrix. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is some kind of design. It's a facade
Yeah, because you
for
spoke
something
about a
else.
grid or something like that. Something along the lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was like
Um
that? Like, how did that feel like seeing a grid or, I guess, interpreting a grid of whatever the fuck this is?
it was very like looking at grid paper. It was like that. It was a design above me, like above the sky, above the universe, above space, which I barely believe in now. There was like this grid, like an end to it. Like it doesn't go on forever. We're in like this neon grid box thing,
That's
and I
crazy.
felt like I had seen the end of it.
I saw a video describe this same exact thing. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I guess I'd never really heard anything that similar to that. I
Well,
mean, I know people have felt like they're in the simulation, but it was like a red crisscross grid above me. Kind of took up the whole plane of this, what you would imagine space is. It's not something that I got to explore.
of course, like, cause it's something you get a glimpse of, but I don't think we'll fully ever understand what it is. But I mean, I've seen someone describe it as like the idea of it being similar to what you said, like the grid. He said that he took DMT and he saw this grid of just his room. He saw the walls vibrating, but he saw an actual grid and everything was cut into like even pieces of what it is as a material. And he described it as being like kind of computerized in the way that it was like all digital. None of it was real. And then
Hmm.
suddenly it kind of like fades away, and he sees what we see now.
Very digital, very calculated. Like this is it's all a computer. Like one time I tried to keep my eyes open on DMT because I thought it would just be a different experience, and I had this Marilyn Monroe poster on my wall. And I looked at it, and it turned into like this shimmering gold, and all of a sudden, it was just a rectangle. And my dresser was just a rectangle. Everything turned into its most basic geometric shape. Like my lighter was just a rectangle. My bowl was just a circle on a stick. You know what I mean? Like everything was, and it became very cartoony. Like the realism was sucked out of
But I
it.
love the idea because it's like if that's what it really is, then a lot of people are like, oh well, how do we escape the simulation? Like life is a simulation. Let's end it all. Like let's commit mass genocide. But like to me, it's like fuck it. Do you really think that you could get out of this? Like really? Do you think you have any idea of how to even break out this simulation? Just let it be. It's the same thing as it used to be. Like not to plug.
Do you even know if you want to get
Yeah,
out?
like is that what are you trying to?
You don't know what's on the other side, man. I don't.
Exactly. It's so crazy that I hear some people like, especially the spiritual YouTubers nowadays, are like, "Oh, life is a simulation. Everything they say is a matrix. You're trying to get out of this matrix. Go like meditate or get no, it won't. You'll always be in the same place. At least that's what I feel like. It's like even if you have these insane DMT experience, I think it's on the same level, just different dimensions of like consciousness. Because that's how I see it. Like a lot of people
Yeah,
want to
and
demean.
meditation's wonderful, but you're opening your eyes and coming back to the same bullshit everyone else is.
Exactly. Like, and no matter who the fuck you are, right? You could be Buddha and you could be like saying, "Oh, I had the most profound experience. I spoke to God, like fucking Moses or some shit." You're still the same being as me. You're still on the same realm as me. You're still on the same plane as me. You're not. You could be a messenger of what you've seen and experienced, but to act like you're any greater than anyone else on this who or you have more potential to like break out of this, it's just stupid to me.
I mean, I could tell somebody with a straight face that I've talked to God, but I don't think that makes me any better than anybody else or that I know more. It's just like I got to ride a roller coaster before it was fully ready for everybody else. Everyone else is going to get to ride it. I just got to ride it, kind of early. I got to test it out.
Yeah, like the prototype, I guess. um
Kinda,
you know
yeah.
what, go for it. Just tell us the story about how you met God. I want to hear that.
So that was at the deepest point of. I would say, like, I'm sure you're familiar with the term of breakthrough,
Yeah, I've heard it before.
like a DMT breakthrough,
Yeah, like
and
astral everything.
you'll hear a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I don't know if I broke through, or I think I almost did, or
You'll
was
know
this a
when you break
breakthrough, or
through.
whatever." Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you have any question like that,
Then you
then
do,
no,
yeah.
then absolutely not. If it's not yes, then it's no.
Yeah, there's no maybe. There's
And
no
I've had
maybe.
many DMT experiences, and there was only one time I broke through, and I was caught up. I was playing with these entities. Everything was fine and wonderful and perfect, and they're playing with me and showing me shit. And then they like looked right into my soul, and they're like, "We're gonna have to shut you off. You know that." And I started pulling myself out of the trip, and they go, "No, no, you're going off. You got to see this. This is what you're doing here. We're doing this for you. We're showing you this. We only have you here for a short amount of time, and you didn't remember this place when you came back, so we got to show you some shit." And I kept going, "No, no, 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 no," and fighting it, and then finally they were like, "There's very little you can do, dude. Like, stop fighting it." And they started kind of laughing, like, "You're going away. No, no, you're going away." And I felt my thoughts slipping away, and not in the way like you get really tired and you're falling asleep and you stop thinking. It was like thoughts themselves were slipping away. My memories, first it was like physical, like my bed, my room, everything dissolved, but then it was my memories, and it was the stuff that makes me me, and it was like my
So
family
would
and
you
my
was it
life,
like an ego
and
death?
that's exactly what it was. And I saw everything. I saw me going to school. I saw conversations I had with teachers. I saw all my friends. Everything going away. Everything's going away, and it's 1,000% going away, and I can't stop it. And it's so fucking devastating to have that. I mean, just the thought of it is devastating. But then to feel it slipping away was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. It was I'm actually dying. I fucked up. I took too much of something. I did something I
Yeah.
shouldn't have done. I'm fucking dying right now. And once all those thoughts and everything slipped away, the very last thing I felt was my breath. That was the only thing that existed in this world, was my breath. And I took 3 big deep breaths like in this blackness, and I realized the next one's the last one. And I took a deep breath, and when I exhaled, it was gone. I was done. It was black. It was silent. I was completely gone. And then all of a sudden it opened up like if the sun was a vagina. It was like this vagina opened up from the black, and it was super bright, like a flower opening, like life, like, it blossomed, and everything became this super bright light. And the second I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is that thing? And then I was inside of it, and they go, that's you. You're this giant light. You're everything. It was everything that's ever happened and it's going to happen. It already knows. It's all there. It's all in this light. It's everybody. It's everyone you've ever met. It's everyone you haven't met. It's everyone you're going to meet. It's everything you've been. This is it. And they were so proud to show me this. Like, we're so happy we get to fucking show you this because you need to know this. You personally need to see this and feel this. And my thoughts started to return. I was like, oh my God, I'm this giant god light. What the fuck? And they go, yep. And they're nodding and laughing and like cheering and spinning and so fucking proud of me. They go, you saw that? You felt that? Do you see us? Do you hear us? We love you. We love you. And I'm like, oh my God, so I'm this giant light. And they're like, yeah, we love you, but we got to go deal with it. And I was like, wait, what happened? And all of a sudden I was back in my bed. And everything rushed back. The memories, my friends, my family, everything was suddenly right back. And I wanted it back so bad. And I just laid there crying like that was my ego death. I lost everything and it all came back to me. And I realized how important I was and how important this place was and all the things that I fucking worry about, and it all went away and I wanted it all back like instantly. And it made me so much more grateful for all that shit that I had just gotten back. I think that was the big message there, is that you don't want all this to go away. Not right now. And when it does go away, it's going to be beautiful and peaceful and you're going to learn a lot. But right now we got to send you back to that place because you got some shit to do. And I was like, all right, put me back in my bed then. I guess we'll plug me back into this place.
Oh, fucking God.
Even though I can never look at it the same way again. Here I am.
Holy shit, that's crazy. That's honestly oh fuck. I don't even know how to like where to begin. That
Me
story
neither.
that story in itself just sounds like the perfect like end all and be all type of situation where like everything was fading away, you lost your identity, you lost your memories, and then you meet this massive, how would you describe it? Was it like a magic man, like a magic old man in the sky, or was it actually just like a massive ball of light, or how would you describe it?
I mean, if you imagine the infinite space, up, down, left, right, and then just everything, your entire field of view, everything, as much space as you can imagine, was the brightest light you can imagine.
Fuck, I know what you mean as well, because that's the fundamental thing I felt as well. There was no space in that dream I had. There was no space. Like if to me it felt like the space was infinite. There was no like dimensions of like up, down. It just felt like everything was infinite all around me. If that makes sense. So
Yeah,
was
it
it like
just
that?
is,
Yeah.
which sounds ridiculous, but
Like you
that's
can't even form of like there's no shape to it. It's just infinite. That's how I felt. Was it like in that type of realm, I guess, or the light, I guess?
yeah. I don't know if we really have the human words to
Yeah,
describe those things.
you can't describe
Like
it. It's impossible.
like I've seen shapes and colors and movements that are impossible to describe, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world
It is, yeah.
to see these things and to see them in my head right now and know that I don't have. I'm pretty well spoken. I like to think I can't even begin to describe the things I've seen.
Yeah, like it's just crazy. The fact that and you described it as God, and I agree with you because that's what that's entirely what I imagine God as. Just like
Or yeah, what we think of God as, the
yeah,
ultimate source, the one,
yeah,
the
yeah.
the
That's what I
big
think it is. The
idea.
source, because a lot of people even call it God as in like the old man in the sky, or like how it's interpreted by us humans. But then the source, I find that much more like promising because it just gives it a more fundamental, like how it is, especially the way you described it, this big, like it's light. infinite light is exactly
And
what
you're
it is.
giving respect to it, that
Yes,
it
yes.
could be bigger and more important than just
Then
a
us,
dude
yeah.
that's watching you jerk off.
Yeah.
It's much bigger than this. It's much bigger than that. But it's hard to describe. Like there's that band Every Time I Die. One of their lyrics is, "I only marvel at existence in the language that existence permits."
I fucking love that.
Meaning, I can only fucking tell you so much because we don't have the words to describe a lot of the times, like the way we're feeling, or
Yeah.
I've taken that lyric to heart
Fuck.
because sometimes there's just not the words for it, even though you can feel it completely.
That's insane. That's honestly like the way you described it. You used perfect words for it. Just that story in itself. So you genuinely feel like you met God on DMT.
I think if there's a place we go once our human selves die, if there is another thing after this, I think I got to peek in the window of it.
So who do you think the entities were that like showed you this? Like, do you know?
I see. I call these the tall things, or the tall
How
guys.
would you describe them?
Physically, I can't. They were like vague, kind of ghost-like, tall,
Ah,
almost like gravestone shaped, like kind of oval at the top and then flat at the bottom. But like, I couldn't get a good look at them. They were directing me, and they were just directing me towards different things. Like, don't look at that. Don't do this. Come here. Look at this. Do this. Don't do that. Like, guiding me. And the more I listened to them, they were finally like, okay, now he's listening. Now we got him. We hooked him. Now we got to show you this shit. We're shutting you off. You've done well.
that's crazy.
They were like spirit guides,
Yeah.
more so than like jester entities or machine elves. They were like the old ancestors or whatever, like spirit guides. Like they were for fucking sure showed up to help me out.
Insane. Absolutely insane. And that's the luckiest thing that you've already experienced this before everybody else.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. You
I
never
mean,
know.
I wouldn't recommend everybody do that. It changes everything. I've thought about that trip that I just described to you every day for years now. Every single day.
And the fact, again, because it's in the real world. You can't describe it. So I'll never have a full understanding of what you experienced, but you know,
You might.
I mean, right now I might, like I might not right now in the presence, but maybe in the future if I ever do take DMT.
No, don't say never. I researched DMT for I don't know what reason for like 2 years. I would look up trip reports. I would look up videos. I was so fascinated by the idea of it. Never sought it out. And then one day my buddy's like, "Weren't you telling me about that DMT shit?" I'm like, yeah, it's this and it's that. And he's like, "Oh, my friend's got some for like
Yeah, I
really
hear
cheap.
a
He's
lot
trying to
of
get rid of
times
it."
people say that the DMT comes to them. Like you don't even have to like you kind of like you might be looking into it and then suddenly someone or like a person has it. Like the DMT kind of comes to you when you're in need of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that sounds as crazy as
It
anything,
does.
but
It
I
sounds
believe
like
that.
some voodoo like type shit. But, like genuinely, that's like the best part of it that it comes to you.
Yeah, it comes to you and personalizes it and gives you whatever it wanted you to have.
Next thing I wanted to talk about was so because you said your friend he had the DMT like first time. How was your first ever time taking DMT?
That was it.
Well, the one you just told me.
Yeah.
First time ego death breakthrough. That's fucking crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And I hear that's nearly impossible to do, but I've done enough times to know the difference between that first one and all the rest of them.
mm,
The first one was like an initiation. It was it was set up very specifically to happen exactly that way.
One thing that always kind of confused me was how. So when you take DMT, first of all, I don't even know how, like, what you take it. Do you ingest it? Do you like do you smoke it? Do you drink it? I really don't know because I'm just not like I never actually seen the chemical itself being taken by someone. So like
We
you
smoked it.
smoked it, alright? Yeah. So like 3 puffs, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like
you try to
yeah,
take three of the biggest hits you possibly can. But ultimately, you want to smoke as much as you can as quickly as
yeah.
possible.
And then once you take those 3 puffs, like how does the world change around you? Like progressively, I guess. Because is it like closed-eyed visuals? Is it like everything, the world itself changes and you suddenly start floating and you get shot out of the cannon, or is it like kind of like you're still in this world and you can still see your I'm guessing like your room and all the shit around you, but it's just a bit more psychedelic. How is that even work? Because you said that you tried to open your eyes one time when you brought on DMT and you saw that Madonna poster or whatever it was.
Yeah, everything just became a cartoon and then dissolved. But usually, I keep my eyes closed.
And that's where you see everything.
Yeah. One time, my friend was gonna take the pipe from me after the third hit and leave the room, and the craziest fucking thing happened because as I was taking the third hit, all of a sudden I was lying down in his bed, looking up at myself taking the third hit, and I watched myself take the hit and my friend walk out of the room, and then I watched myself lay back into me. And when I laid down into me, I heard like a like an undulating you're going down, and all of a sudden it was like looking at like a I guess a galaxy with just stars,
That's crazy.
and all the stars started to form faces, and then they were clearly clown faces, and here we are, and that's in like 2 seconds after laying down.
See, that's what confuses
I was
me
like, man,
because
there's the DMT. I should lay down and close my eyes. Clown faces. We're back
I mean,
here
you
again.
said that you don't believe that space is real, but then you say you saw galaxies in your trip.
No, I'm saying imagine like it was like all black with like little
Okay. So
sparklies.
you're trying to interpret it,
And
yeah.
then the sparklies formed faces, and then the faces started to spin, and that's you start to notice more and more, and then they get excited and start doing more and more.
Sounds crazy. Sounds like
And I mean, I'm sure space exists. I don't know what's going on up there. I don't think we'll ever go up there enough for my liking to
yeah, I
figure it
don't think
out.
we will. No, not with the technology we have right now. I don't think. And plus, it's just I'm not gonna get into it, but it's very complicated on how it all works.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works. It's a very ignorant thing for me to say that I don't know about space. But
Yeah, so like all these trips and you experience throughout your life. What are some of the like main few ones? Of course, I'm guessing the one where you met God and the breakthrough. But like, do you have any other ones that were kind of a bit more minor and but still in kind of like that stuck with you, I guess.
um, I mean, most of them do, at least bits and pieces of them. The big ones are the ones I usually talk about on my channel. I mean, I've had so many trips and so many stories that I've never even mentioned on my channel. You know, it's usually reserved for like the big ones that I think deserve like a 10-minute story or whatever. Um, but there's so many that for whatever reason I can't really talk about. You know, but most of the big ones I've spoken on. Most of them are DMT. I mean, I've had some. Don't get me wrong, some crazy acid trips. I've taken a lot of acid and gotten crazy, but they seem like nothing compared to DMT. So, like most of my prolific trips would have to be DMT because it's just a different animal.
They're burning down the Amazon, like, and they're chopping it down, deforestation. But that's where most of the time we get all these psychedelics and shit from the Amazon itself. And they're discovering new, like I think it was like 2 new species a day in the Amazon, and something that could be plants, anything, and the craziest thing to me is that some of these plans could be like even crazier than DMT, like the next big psychedelic that could show even more and more and more and help us even more. But all of it's getting burned down, so we'll never really know. And that's why we get medicines and shit. It's just like I just wanted to bring that in because like all this crazy ass stuff we have. I mean, we should have, but we're just ruining it for ourselves for no apparent reason, just because we have this ego where we need to get all these materials out to the rest of the world.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. It's the difference between medicine from the Amazon and in a bottle that they can prescribe to you, and 4 or 5 different people make a bunch of money off that little pill bottle, as opposed to chew on this plant for free and feel better.
Fuck, life could be so much simpler. I say that, but there's probably so much complications to it. But yeah. But have you ever seen anybody like, just as an example, that guy you did a video with, I forgot his name, but we had like kind of a feud in the comments or some shit, 23 comments just arguing. Have
Right.
you like ever met people like that where they kind of like put you off any psychedelics, or like you thought these people are nuts, like what they're talking about?
Not until that.
Because that guy was pretty out there, I think, personally.
Did you watch that whole thing?
I skimmed through it. Like I watched like the first
Yeah.
20, 30 minutes, and I got not even lying. I got a bit bored and I started skimming through it, and you were just silent throughout the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
See, like these, like not to offend anyone or put anyone like in a weird position, but like people like this where they especially like he was like full on in the comments like chanting and like just copy and pasting Bible verses and shit. How do you feel about that? Like these type of people, because they're in the same community technically. Like what was your experience with that person? I don't know his name. Just like
The story with him was that he started putting all those Bible verses and craziness on all of my videos, and I responded to one of them, and he told me that every other YouTube channel that he's commented on has blocked him. So I thought it was cool, and imagine. So I thought it'd be cool to be the one dude that was like,
giving him the benefit of the doubt.
and not only that, giving him a forum. Like, if
Yeah.
you have all this shit and you have a message and you think everybody should hear it, then for you, let's do a video where you give that message. And for me, at the very least, it's fucking material, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it wasn't an interview. I clearly just wound him up and let him go. You do it. If this is so important to you and you're in every video commenting, this is, tell us what you're about. Show us. And that happened. And then he started emailing me like crazy. You're going to be condemned if you post that. You're going to be cowering, asking for God, and the psychedelics won't forgive you, and I don't forgive you. And like, I won't post it, dude, because it's fucking embarrassing. And it's not even good. And then he's like, yeah, don't post it, don't post it. I was like, fine, I won't. And then I was like, if you don't leave me alone, then I'm going to post that video. And he's like, you do that, and God will kill you, and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, I tried to be cool with you. I'm just going to post it now. I'll show people what you're really like and how you really act. You what?
I thought like you did like I thought you posted a video on purpose, like you two had like a whole thing planned out. I didn't know it was like you kind of turned on him. Oh, that's crazy.
I wouldn't say it's like I turned on him. It was like after that happened, he went nuts and said, this, and I clearly said, leave me alone many times.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say like it was like some sinister thing.
And then,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be cyberbullied by some old insane man on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, most of the stuff he was even talking about, it was very irrational. Like, I remember he went on my channel and shit, and he started commenting on my videos, like out of nowhere, the same verses and
I
shit.
apologize for that because he's been doing that to other people that I've talked
I
to,
had to
and
delete
that's
it, but he's gone now. But like, fuck. You know, I was trying to rationalize with him as well. I was just trying to like, I was telling him like, what you're doing isn't necessarily wrong. What you're saying isn't necessarily wrong. The way you're putting it out there is kind of like putting me off though. Like, could you like not? Could you speak to me like a human and actually have a conversation if you're really all about that, right? But instead, he kind of like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't even fucking know what the guy was on.
well, that's the problem. If you try to be cool with him and ask him a question or have a conversation, he's gonna copy and paste something where he's hammering you over the head with all this shit that he's clearly written down and is just copy and pasting everywhere. And it's yeah, I've told him the same thing. Like the shit you're saying, like eat better and don't smoke and stuff like that's all good stuff. Like nothing you're saying is bad. It's the way you're presenting yourself to people that like as a messenger of God or whatever, you should present the message to where people want to talk to you and want to hear it and want to hear more of it.
Of course.
You're pushing people away like as hard as you can. It seems like
Yeah, he was like a full on
if
tinfoil
I
hat
didn't want
type.
people to talk to me, that's how I would talk to them.
Yeah, and it's like I personally can deal with that, like these type of people, because I know not to take them too seriously, because I know they're probably going through some shit, like realistically. But some other people that might just be who might have just been introduced to that like psychedelic side of YouTube or some shit, right? And they just see that like that could put people off straight away, like just that type of like mannerism he had towards people just felt so like I don't know, it wasn't right. But how would you describe like the process of that video? It was like 3 hours long or something, and you were just silent.
That was the second one we had done like that.
Oh, there was two.
Something interfered with the first one. It didn't record properly. Like something weird cosmic shit happened, and the first one was fucking good, dude. It wasn't just like that. It was like an hour long, and I let him go. Like I let him say whatever he wanted, and he was like crying and getting super emotional and like having coherent thoughts. And it was really good. It just didn't record.
That's crazy.
And then the second time we did it, he's like drinking all this mushroom tea and he's dropping shit and he keeps leaving the chair that he's sitting in. I'm recording and I'm just sitting there at 4 a.m. Like, where'd he go now?
Oh fuck.
Maybe like 10 minutes into that video, I was like, I don't think I can use any of this.
Oh yeah, because that must be like insane. Because like you're seeing a guy going through a obvious crazy ass insane trip, right? Because that's what it must be, and he's like
Yeah.
expressing himself. And then of
Yeah.
course, so is that why he didn't want it to come out? Was there like another reason? He just maybe it was something to do with like his belief or something.
No, he said he was clearly super embarrassed about the way he was acting.
Ah, yeah, fair.
But he said, he talked to God and God punished him for it, but he's not done punishing me for it, so don't post it. I'm like, all right, dude, stop talking to me. I won't post it. Like, really, don't post it. You're going to be cowering in the corner asking for God. I was like, all right, dude, stop talking to me. I'm going to post it. You're Judas. You're the son of Judas and all this stuff. I was like, all right, dude.
So like this guy, right? I mean, it's sick that you posted a video, but it's like, damn, like I didn't know he was that into it. Like, and then like the other one you did with, correct me if I'm wrong, but Quantum Kitty.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like that one because like I personally related to what she was talking about near to the end with the whole meeting the Baphomet and like the devil and I don't know.
Yeah.
That
No, she's awesome. After my first DMT trip, I found her and I watched her for years before I ever talked to her.
that was the first video I saw about of her, I guess. And like and then you linked the shop and went on that. And it was some crazy ass like psychedelic artwork, and it was she's talented as fuck. And I think that's
Yeah,
crazy.
she does a lot of cool shit, but she's got a YouTube channel.
Oh, you need to send it to me.
She's had it for years. She's kind of inactive now, but you should watch her videos on ego death and DMT and shit. She's way smarter and prettier than me, so you should watch them. Yeah, those two videos are like night and day.
Oh, like
letting that
oh
guy go crazy for
shit.
2 hours and then talking to
It
her
must have been
is
one hell of a fucking day then. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I saw like a connection, like because it had the same format, but it was surprising seeing like longer videos coming from you. But that's crazy, no. And then
oh, I didn't expect it to be that long, dude.
yeah, and trust me, it's a normal thing. It happens to everyone. Like even now, like I think we're going on. What is it? We're going on 2 hours right now. So like the editing process of this year is gonna be crazy. But yeah, I mean, I genuinely like the fact that you gave the guy a chance. You gave him a platform, and even after he kind of like turned, I wouldn't say turned on you, but like he wasn't respectful towards you. You still posted that video and you gave him a chance, and I think that's what really matters because other people didn't.
Right. And that was my initial thought was I'll try to be the one that's cool. And that doesn't always work out. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I kind of knew. I should have known from the comments.